Oh,
Good morning. Welcome to the 11/30/2024. That would be November 30th, 2024. Spontaneous writing session. We have a really cool one today. We're going to do a speed round. It's going to be really exciting. I'm at my mother's. I'm orange. Everything's out of discombobulation. Yeah. Any questions before we get started? I think I left it as a Word document. So y'all are just going to have to hang on. Oh, and if I have it as a Word document, I have to close it in order to attach it, right? And attach it in the chat, and then we'll get rolling. No looking ahead to the future ones that we're going to do. Writing workshop prompts. Boy, I'm slow at this. I am so sad to just open it again instead of attaching it because that's the kind of person I am.
Here is you're brilliant.
I'm brilliant. That's right. We're only allowed to say
it's just
brilliant.
just what orange people do.
I'm definitely orange today. Okay. Oh my gosh. Send. There it is in the chat. Um, are you able to open the document I put in the chat? I better reopen it myself, hadn't I? And I can share it on the screen if that's helpful, but it's usually so small, it's hard for people to see.
Yeah, I can open it.
I can open
Okay,
it.
great. Any problems, Gracie? She's probably like moving her head, but I can't see it because I was opening mine.
Nope, we're
Oh,
good.
okay, hold on. I'm closing all this so I can. I'm on my tiny monitor and I can't see both at once. Okay, so we're going to start with this. They're all really good today, actually. I have the coolest things for us to read today. I hope that you really enjoy them. Does anybody want to be the one? Is there anything we should do to warm us up to make us feel artistic and stuff? You are a writer.
I,
Just
my
kidding.
my brain is just not in the artistic vein right now. It's like,
Well, hopefully you will be after the shot's fired. Does anybody want to read it?
I'll read it.
I can. Oh, go ahead.
Okay,
Go.
thanks, Kirsten. Laura, you're going to go next then.
Just whenever.
Oh yeah, go for it. Thanks.
Sniveling, aching, running until you drop. Sprawled out like a kid playing jacks, your legs cramping, sweating. You bend them. Notice the sharp, cushy pricking. Finally, see the red, orange, long twin needles. Their hinge is black. You twirl it around, marvel at the abundance of these things. They're as thick as the cheap carpet in the first house you rented with the guy who just broke your heart. You pile up a few of the needles. Notice they cover a film of soil, dark, grainy. There be mycelium here. You even out the pile, wipe your hand against your nose. Figure if you're going to be called childish, you can damned well act that way. You swipe away the snot, rub it into the dirt by your side, and look at the trunks around you. Tall, straight, nearly evenly spaced, and you're reminded of bars in a jail cell. And really, wasn't that what your marriage was like? Bound to one another with no escape forever and ever. Except it's not. And he let go of you, and if you were honest, you never really grabbed a hold of him with the same amount of love because, well, you forget why. Did he have to tell you so coldly, not that the marriage was over, which everyone knew, but saying, I don't love you anymore, in a monotone so chilling that a serial killer would shudder? And that's what your legs did. Your legs shuddered and you slapped him. He grabbed your hand and said, only children and idiots settle things through violence. That made you want to grab his ears and pull them off, but you used your ungrabbed hand to sweep everything from crock pot to crouton bag to the floor. You left and ran until you couldn't, and nothing is settled, and you gave up again. Wonder if you any wonder if anyone ever loved you. Lying on the mat of rust-colored needles on top of wild mushrooms and juicy moral roots, you gaze up at the treetops, and the way they touch reminds you of the pillars in cathedrals. You relax because what else are you going to do with this broken heart but wait for a word from on high? Hope to God, God exists and he can mend your soul. A leaf from a scrawny ash blows your way, falls down, lands on your cheek, and kisses you awake.
Beautiful. Thank you. So the way we've done the speed rounds is that I'll just talk a little bit about what's in here and pop you straight into the prompt. So instead of the fun where we're all analyzing it together, I'm just going to throw some things at you. I really want to emphasize the sensory detail in this. I mean, if you didn't have a snotty hand that just got rubbed in dirt and all the nastiness that happened with that, then I don't know what just happened in your world. um, the details like, and that's just why details are so amazing. When this horrible fight happens, she sweeps crock pot to crouton bag to the floor. And that in itself is a mini story because now you're imagining what was in the crock pot that needed crouton bags, right? Um, it starts with this, red or orange long twin needles, and it takes a little bit before you realize she's talking about pine needles. And then this lovely sort of shift happens across it where we have her so, 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 so miserable, but she lays back and she finds the pillars in the cathedrals. And she really directly references, well, I say she, T.L. Sherwood really directly references God in a formal religion, and yet turns the nature she's within almost into its religion and the way that it gently kisses the character awake from this moment, right? So just a beautiful microcosm full of mushrooms, right? And I want to remind everybody anytime we're writing, you can write about your own experience, you can write about a character you're working on, you can do it to fit something that's within your novel that you're writing, whatever works for you. And so um, tons of sensory detail, tons of wonderful uh, details. Uh, Imagery is going on with the cathedral. There's symbolism happening with the mushrooms and the dark soil beneath the irritating needles that could be related to the relationships. Ton going on here. And then a ton of characterization of the second person narrator that's asking us to inhabit her space. So POV is really interesting in this one too. And these are all things to think about as we move into the prompt. Okay. And yeah, so choose an apex climax moment in your life or your character's life. Break from the microcosm of that emotion out into the natural world and get specific, right? Until you find out what happens. Everybody have some kind of a climax, a moment, something where your emotions probably were running high is a good choice. Okay, everybody, I'm going to set the clocks. Go ahead and start writing. You have about a minute left. Okay, time is up. Doesn't that time go by fast? It's your face, Gracie. You're like, yeah, absolutely. Just a quick, how did it go, everybody?
It's almost this mix between I have so much to say and not enough words. It's really a weird conundrum to be in. I'm like, okay, make magic.
I had
Yeah.
so much to say, but not enough time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't even think I got to like what the moment was.
If y'all want, take like another 30 seconds to jot down where you think you would go with it. Because the whole point of getting started on these is the opportunity to write more when we get done, right? I mean, it's not necessarily that you're going to get a complete microfiction every time. So if you
Yeah.
want to take a couple notes really quick, do so. And then we'll go to the next one, where I believe Lori is going to read to us Lessons in Negative Space.
I'm not. We did this one in the flash class, and I found that one disturbing. I'll read the third one.
Okay. Yeah, you've seen all these, I think, Lori. She's got a slight advantage
Yeah,
on
we
you.
didn't write on them, but I haven't seen a couple of them. I just went by fast. But the
Oh, okay.
second one I remember was, yeah,
Well, I can read it if nobody
disturbing.
wants to. It is
Oh,
disturbing. It's super disturbing.
I'll read it if
Is it
nobody
like
wants to.
um Oxygen Thief almost like that kind of disturbing, or is it
It's hard to know for
what's about?
sure what happened to these
Yeah.
women, but these women were maltreated for sure.
oh boy. Mentally prepare myself for that one
Mhm.
then.
Yeah.
When I was doing my library work group, we were supposed to bring our own writing, and people actually hadn't brought much. So, when all else fails, you do the improv writing prompt, right? And I didn't even bring anything to pull improv from. So I had this. So I'm like, and I have, a 15-year-old, a 14-year-old, a 10-year-old there, as well as some
Oh.
60 and 50-year-olds. So I said, lily pad. You're picking the things you can pick out of it. Okay, I hope you got a couple notes for where you're going ahead with what you're working on. And feel free to do that at the end of all these each time we do it because we're not reading right away. So we're going to move into lessons in negative space. It sounds like Kirsten's ready to take one for the team again. So
Yeah.
fire away when you're ready.
Okay. 1. It's always night when they wheel us girls in, gowned on gurneys, underground. They pull their masks up and peer at our faces, line us in rows along the dark gray walls. We must be sick. They must be healers. Light bulbs swing from the ceiling. Somewhere down the row is Sissy. It's her turn, and she's crying. 2. I refuse to count backwards because I know I'll die. The blue scrubbed surgeon reveals the silver sharp instruments on the tray, filled in order of shine, filed in order of shine. He swivels, smiling on the stool, and asks why I'm afraid, sweeping wide with his large hands. Dark hairs prickle his arms like an animal. Each finger wears a tuft of wool. 3. Bruises lily pad down my spine. If I were a little frog, I could jump, jump across them to my arm, my ass, my thighs, where the bruises are clustery, both dark and bright, big as a man's hands. Turn, they say, snapping the camera, tapping each one on film, readying them for exhibition. Turn, they say, don't look away. Drop the sheet a little lower. 4. The woman assigned to my case has the face of a young Stockard Channing. I expect her to sing, joke, light a cigarette. We sit in her office and read the judgments, the confessions, the lies. Shapes and voices float in and out, a face full of wet grass, a knee full of dirty carpet. I roll into a ball, squeeze myself as small as the head of a pin. The papers wobble in the woman's hands and grow wet. 5. With one gloved hand in my cunt, the midwife tells me to push. She tells me my body isn't working, the baby isn't breathing, the car is warming up. I float above the bed, above the dark paneled wainscot, above myself. I am the ceiling. I am the yellowed flowers on the walls. Not the blood in the twisted cord in the oxygen tank, the baby girl suctioned and swaddled. Not the panic passing in the doorway. The car is warm, and they know we are coming. Wow.
This disturbing, right?
Thank you for reading it. I
I
couldn't.
do feel like I want to give you all a couple of seconds to speak on this if you want, because that's pretty disturbing before I say anything. Any thoughts that you want to offer as we move
The
into
way
it?
that it started, it almost reminded me of like World War II and concentration camps and documenting. I was like, huh.
Hmm. Yeah,
The way that she's so, or the narrator
yeah.
is just so like blasé. Like the terminology that she uses, how she uses cunt instead of like,
Hmm. Instead of vagina. Yeah,
yeah,
I
yeah.
am just too stunned to speak.
That's fair. That's
Yep.
fair.
I don't have
Yeah,
I don't have anything to say, but I have a lot to say. I just can't say it. So,
yeah. So, I mean, I think that it's really important to register the impact of something like this on us when we read it, because I think we finish it and we don't fully understand what happened. We just know it's a piece full of violence, right? And
yeah.
there's some clues happening. I love what Gracie said about that kind of World War II feeling. It does feel super experimental. I don't know why I was thinking of Jessica Alba and Dark Angel the other day, but I was, because of course her character's name was Max, and so I have a close relationship with her. And she doesn't know it, but I do. Plus, she was an Air Force brat. Her father was in the Air Force, so we're practically the same person. She just makes more money than me. Um, but this had this almost experimental quality to it, right? There were experiments being done to people, and there seemed to be clues that these people were young. Bruises a lily pad down my spine. That feels like something a child would do when she says, or the character says, if I were a little frog, I could jump across them, right? But then ass thighs, right? So we have an
Yeah.
adult who looks back to it also. But that's in the present tense. So it's really hard to say for sure what's going on, but they're called
May
girls. Go ahead.
Maybe an adult who has been in this since she was a little girl
Ah, very
and
Well,
is
and
nice.
kind
she
of,
says her sissy is down the
yeah,
hall. That's the part
Yeah,
that made me think it was more like long-term experimental because
right,
in the war they used to experiment on twins. And so
right.
I'm like, ooh,
I
yeah.
love that observation because, maybe these could be the
it
twin experiences.
might be a sex trafficking thing.
Could be. Yeah,
That's what I was thinking. I mean, why do you have so many girls and none of them are boys? Because
right.
yeah. Well, I'm not saying boys can't be sex trafficked, but typically that's not what happens. So,
Yeah. And then, the woman assigned to my case. So that's the feeling like maybe it's been discovered because it's judgments, confessions, lies, right?
Hmm.
Shapes and voices float in and out. And then she rolls into a ball. That's the character does, but she is a she, we know because it's all girls. And the we there was like a collective fourth person we in the first paragraph before it goes into the really tight first person I. And the papers wobble in the woman's hands and grow wet. What is she showing us with that sentence?
That
lady's
this woman
crying.
is, yeah, that she's like,
shocked with what she's
can't
seeing.
can't believe
Yeah,
what she's witnessing in
yeah.
the evidence.
And then number 5 is being told after 1 through 4. And so we can't help but think that somehow this baby girl that has come out of the cunt, apparently, um, is a result of whatever kind of violence was happening before this. Certainly, the person doesn't have medical terms for these parts of her body in a way that feels like almost hate. I don't know if you would agree with that, but like the derogatory terms tells us that she doesn't like what's happening,
It
that,
almost feels like a man's language, like
yeah,
if the man was talking to her and,
yeah.
identifying parts of her body, and that's just
Hmm.
what she knows. So I'm like, oh,
Yeah. And I love the car is warm and they know we are coming. I don't even understand that yet, but I feel like when I do understand it, it's going to be incredibly profound, that it seems like perhaps they could even be a baby factory and she's going to go off to whatever she was again, or I don't know.
It kind of reminded me of The Handmaid's Tale a little
Yeah.
bit.
Yep.
Um, and Laura, you were right when you said it was disturbing because I'm glad I didn't.
Right.
I'm glad I
Right.
didn't look at it, but I was like, I wish I hadn't read along, but
Yeah.
I'm kind of glad I did. But
But I did this on purpose because becoming uncomfortable often creates good writing for us. So I'm both sorry, but I hope this will have the impact that we're looking for. So for your prompt, and a couple of things quickly to admire the way that the she used that sort of fourth person we, collectively speaking for the girls and narrowed it down into the I was a really nice way to bring a wide focus lens into a very specific moment. And then she takes us through this in what feels like a chronological way. So you can think of how she structured it. And using the numbers was an interesting idea to help us. We're used to those numbers, meaning those things happen in that order, but possibly even the woman assigned to my case was chronologically number five. It makes more sense, right? So just thinking about the way structure could be a little fluid in this one, we don't know for sure. Um, we feel like we know the character. There's a lot less figurative language happening, except for the lily pad one, and that one seems like the very worst thing that happened to her. And then there's just a lot of also symbolism happening and something that would take us a long time, I think, to pick apart and figure it out, but to go ahead and be impacted by it. So your prompt says, consider a great ethical dilemma. Imagine that. Uh, Possibly this person writes about rape and reproductive rights. It's really hard to say for sure what she's writing about. But what else matters to you? Could it be rescuing animals? Could it be equitable treatment? Could it be all the commercials that they keep running on my mom's TV shows, including the SPCA, and then St. Jude's is big right now. So, like, what really matters to you? And then imagine a person, maybe it's your character, put that person in the middle of one of these dilemmas and with specificity, right toward the crux of the problem, and then take it higher. So here she wrote towards the crux of it, which is, I think, ultimately being forced, it sounds like, to have a baby. And then she took it higher, I think, by talking about the ways it impacted her. Okay. Do you have a dilemma? All right. That's enough to get you started. Here goes the clock. Good luck. You have about a minute left. Time's up. I'm really curious to hear really quick, like what happened. We're not going to read yet, but was it surprisingly creative creating, or were you too disturbed to write?
Mine was more like based on my life.
Hmm.
And going back to that was kind of upsetting for a few seconds, but and then I got pissed off, and then that's what got me writing. And I was like, I'm pissed, so I'm just gonna write.
Nice.
So
Nice. Emotions good.
yeah.
What about the rest of you?
Mine was
Chris?
just sad.
Oh, okay.
So I didn't get much written on that one.
Okay. I'm trying to learn from this. Because this one's really disturbing, but Lori will read it.
Oh, I love this next one, the bird one. It's
Yeah.
not disturbing. It's funny.
Oh, is it
Okay.
the big bird and then the
No.
No.
It's-
How about you,
okay.
Gracie? How did it go?
I think all right. I think it was really hard to try and pinpoint one thing because I've not had like anything as hard as that happen in my life. So I'm trying to like gauge where that emotion lies. It's more of like the
Oh,
beliefs and the
Lincoln.
stuff. Hi, buddy. Hi.
Hi, Lincoln.
Hi, Lincoln.
So I think it was really tough to just pinpoint one and then write on that.
It's right now.
Do you hear that somebody else?
Yeah. Yeah. To pick an emotion, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, it's tough.
Well, what helped was that in the prompt, when you put what matters to you rescuing animals, it's like, okay, if I can write on dogs, that's no problem.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know. That's
Where,
the harder one because all of the ones that have to do with animals, they're like even bigger tearjerkers than people. And I'm like, oh,
right, right.
You want to tell me?
But it's important to feel things, right?
mhm.
It's just a woman who, hides all of her emotions. Well, I'm glad you guys got some kind of writing down. I'm not supposed to call you guys. Let's move on to the next one. Lori, you want to kick us off?
Lincoln would
Sure.
like to tell you guys something really quick.
Oh, sure.
Oh,
What's
yeah.
up, Lincoln?
Go ahead, tell him.
Well, it's snowy outside.
Is it snowy outside?
Yeah.
Oh,
Excited.
wow.
No way.
That's really exciting.
Yeah.
That means Santa's on the way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. 25 days.
All right.
Oh,
bye-bye.
Lori, you're killing me. You are killing me. Every time Lori and I are in a class
I think
together,
it's
she knows
26
exactly how
days,
many days it
Lori.
is to Christmas.
Oh, I look at the sign right across there. It changes every day.
Well, it's the 30th, so it's 26. No, 25.
25 days.
Yeah.
Right.
Tomorrow's
Nope.
December 1st.
Lori's always right on this one. You just have to accept that.
Well, it's
Apparently, I like
because,
to argue. So
can you see it? I've got the sign right there.
Yep.
25
I
days
love
till
finally
Christmas.
seeing your room. I've just seen the
Oh,
trees for so long.
well, that's the one time when I was doing it from the fireplace. You said, "Where are you?" I
Oh,
said,
yeah,
"Same
yeah.
room, just the other side." It's my favorite
Yeah.
room in the house.
Yeah, it's nice.
fireplace, lucky you.
Well, this room has no heat, so it's a gas fireplace.
Yeah. All right, kick us off, Lori.
All right, bird resuscitation. Jamie Cooper, fractured lip. You stuffed chunks of a frozen bird into your pockets. Outside, the world is spinning. A homeless man asks you for some change, so you hand him a headless bird. He holds it like a broken child. With the bird part stuffed into your pockets, it almost feels like flying. You walk past a restaurant and see a man in a window eating a small bird, feathers and all. You walk into a store to buy a pack of gum, and you hand over 3 little bird heads with the beaks still attached. The clerk sweeps them up like change. He tells you that the summer is waiting for you. You step outside onto a cold island. Birds wash up at your feet. You want to save as many as you can, but your pockets are already bogged down with frozen bird parts. You sit on a bench and you try to piece together a bird from memory. Like the blind, you go by feel until the bird takes shape in your hand. You sew the bird together with purple yarn. You start a fire in a trash can to warm the bird. The bird twitches in your hands. You feel the bones like toothpicks. It squawks to life, just a little at first, but soon it reaches an ear-splitting pitch. It flaps its wings hysterically and pecks at your wrist until it draws blood. You throw the bird as hard as you can and lick the blood from your wrist. The bird bounces a few times and flaps until it gets its bearings and shoots off into the sky. Warm from the fire, you lie down on the grass. You can feel other bird parts come to life in your pockets. You can see them move around under your clothes. The bird in the sky shoots off toward the moon. It flies so fast its wings melt as it leaves the atmosphere. It flies past the ice on Europa. Soon it will fly past the sun. Soon it is no more than the memory of a broken bird you once kept in your pocket as you walked the streets of a small, cold planet littered with bones.
Oh, nicely done. Thank you.
I don't know
Okay,
why I
so
found that one so funny. It's just so absurd. It's
yes,
maybe.
yeah,
I mean, I hate the idea of dead birds, but like my pockets are already full of bird parts. Just
right. Okay, so I'm gonna like just tiptoe us through little things from this and kick you into the prompt because of your response, Lori. I think it's important. We start with you stuff chunks of a frozen bird into your pockets, right? And then that moves from that to like handing something to the homeless person to adding more 3 little bird heads. So already there's more birds in that pocket than you were expecting. You know, maybe the frozen bird joined more. And you step outside from a convenience store to a cold island and birds wash up at your feet. There's purple yarn. You start a fire and it twitches in your hand. I mean, look at this figurative language. You feel the bones like toothpicks. You go from these moments of complete unreality of purple yarn to something quite literal of a bird's bones do feel like toothpicks, right? So there's this weird mix of reality with unreality. Uh, you lick the blood off your wrist, and then you lie down on the grass. I'm like, well, man, my cold island had all rocks and gravel. So, like, ask yourself what you're seeing and feeling as you're moving through this piece and how the person writing it, Jamie Cooper, disrupts it every time you think you're getting somewhere. And then the other ones are coming to life. And then the bird shoots off toward the moon, past Europa on the moon, past the sun. And this last line is asking us, like, if this bird is something, what if it's something as literal as you put a problem in your pocket, right? Soon it is no more than the memory of a broken bird you once kept in your pocket as you walked the streets of a small, cold planet littered with bones. And it seems one way to read this is that we just need a little perspective sometimes, right? Where we are in the world. It's only one way to read it. Let's take a look at this prompt and kick you guys down the road. I'm loving
Done
these
this
speed
prompt
ones.
before?
Sorry?
Have we done this prompt before?
Maybe.
yeah.
I don't know. But we're doing
Yeah.
it again.
Okay.
One of the things that I used to do regularly with this writing practice, but I did it with Lori and the Flash group, the Fiercely Flash that we ran, is decide that how do you write something that you've written before because you're a different person today than you were the other day. You could try to write the exact same thing that you wrote last time and you won't. So, and I thought, Lori, didn't we find that pretty useful in the class?
Yeah.
Yeah. So occasionally I'll throw a same one in. I just thought this bird one was so amazing. We had to do it. Anyway. So open your story with a unique character putting something absurd, specific, and unique. It's missing a comma in their pocket or their purse. Make them hold something. Is it valuable to them? Do they want to get rid of it? are they keeping it safe? And I took his prompt. This is not mine. This is Tommy Dean's. And then how and why and for whom. How does this object force them to make choices, react to the object, react to other characters? Does the person, does somebody else want it? Did they destroy it? So basically, the frozen bird pieces he puts in his pocket drives this entire story we just read. Have your character or you pick up something. Do you want it? Do they want it? Does your character want it? Does somebody else want it? And start moving through the world with it. All right, here goes the timer. Good luck. I have about a minute left. Time's up. Woohoo. Anything as weird as frozen beards, birds.
I
Probably
wish I'd
not.
written about frozen beards.
That could have been fun, right? Was it did you find it easier to get going on this one or harder?
I found this one easier for some god awful reason.
I have a theory about that, but Gracie, were you going to say?
I found it easy to start, but in the middle, I just kind of I got stuck. I was like, okay, now what do I do with it?
Nice, nice.
Um, I don't know if I accidentally wrote the same piece because I don't remember what I wrote about last time, but I think this one's a bit different than this,
Yeah,
the last one was.
yeah. Well, my theory is when we do absurd pieces like this, in some ways it's easier to get going because you aren't forced to make sense. And so you can be like, and then I stepped out on a cold island with purple yarn, like your your brain says, I guess anything can happen. But Gracie, same thing. I sometimes freeze with that. Like I structure helps me sometimes. And so when you're said go wild, my brain's like, I don't know how to go wild. Stop that stuff.
I
One
started
mine is like, you don't know what you don't know. And so I'm like, okay, think of the unknown. Okay.
Yeah, I should have done the Pixar advice. And I learned this when I was in Tommy Dean's workshop, but you weren't here when I said it. Everett and Lori for sure have heard it. Pixar, when they're making a movie, I'm thinking of the Minions as particularly absurd, right? And they'll be like, they don't go with the first idea, the second idea, they go with like the fifth idea of the absurd thing that can happen. So instead of what first comes to mind, just wait, oh no. And if you tell your brain, I'm going to go for the fifth thing, it'll also give you some choices then. And then you could go back and take the third thing anyway if you wanted, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like
So
that.
I think
thinking
it's really great advice. And I think it's great advice. I used it, I've been having to write. This is why I did the faculty benefit and I'm doing the MFA at SNU because I'm, like trying to make myself write. And I've had to because there's been some microburst writing. And I did that. I said, okay, it's not the first thing she would do. And I think I picked about the third or fourth thing. And I was surprised. Like I wasn't expecting Hannah to do what she did, but she did. So I think it's useful in all kinds of writing to say, how could I either like sort of amplify the tension or if you're being absurd, you can make it really absurd.
Well, and I like how it gets you out of your own frame of mind because it's like
Yeah,
it when we think of it, it's not like what we would do. I mean, we're trying to write as a character that we're building. And so
right.
it's okay, this is what I would do. But if you go the third or fourth or fifth, you're like, okay, this is the potential of other people and what their brain could be thinking. So I like that.
Right. I like it a lot. The other thing is that we do naturally protect characters we like and we don't like bad things to happen to them. I know, Kirsten, you're at the end of your manuscript and finally bad things just have to happen to them. So like you're way more comfortable with making bad things happen to your characters at this point. Look at her face.
Yeah, this is the chapter where everything goes well. I finished the chapter where everything went wrong
Belly up, yeah.
and now this is like the end chapter before my little like epilogue.
Yeah.
So,
Nice.
I mean,
Yeah. It's amazing how much you've accomplished. But I
thank
will say, that also, it helps you do bad things to characters that you love because the first thing that you'd have happen to them really isn't that bad, right?
yeah.
I
You
will
know,
say, like, typically when we're reading the prompt, I'm already like thinking about what I'm going to write. But with this prompt, I'm just sitting there like, what the hell am I going to write? I'm like, I
with the
have
frozen birds or the one we're going to.
with the frozen birds, I'm like,
Hmm,
this doesn't make any sense. I'm like, I
right.
don't know where to go with this. I'm like, I have n nothing, nothing
Yeah.
up here. So when we went, I was like, okay, okay, what? I don't know what's gonna happen, but words are
Yeah.
gonna.
Which
So
is awesome. And that's part of why I will put something pretty free flowing like that in there and why I'm happy to use it again, because I think absurdity changes from each moment. I'll be a different kind of absurd sitting in my mom's little den room than I will be in my own office at home, right? You know, everything changes everything. So let's move on to the last one. And see, the other thing that's great about this is I don't actually keep you as long and you get more writing down. And then we will read back your favorite ones. And we might be able to, there's a chance we'll finish by 10:30, which would be, that used to be how long I ran them. And then they just got longer and longer. So we're trying to get life under control again. Give you your Saturdays back too. Anybody want to read Buried, or do you want me to read it? And I don't
one
even know.
sentence.
Sorry.
It's one sentence.
It is. Yeah, that's the point.
Jeez. Okay.
Yeah.
If nobody else wants to read, then I will read again.
Go, Kirsten. I love your Gamer Thrones voice. Okay, let's go for it.
The sky is bleeding stars tonight, white pinpricks ripping through the blackened curtain, so many speckled across the surface that the sheet might disintegrate entirely, and light will coat the world. No, light will burn the world to a tiny, shriveled crisp, and then there won't be any big cities or faraway forests or other places to dream of disappearing in. There will just be soot and ash and buried things, like the trinkets you hid in the yard as a child, things you swore you'd come back to but forgot you buried it all. And now they're stuck. Plastic Barbies and playing cards compacted beneath decades of dirt, and you are curled beneath a blanket on a bed that isn't yours, listening to the half hearted hum of an air conditioning unit, huddling close to a sleeping body that feels warm but not warm enough. And there's an infomercial droning on the television, flashing blue and white across the walls, across your face, but you're not watching because you're staring at the precarious sky between dusty wooden blinds. You're staring at the thousand stars piercing through its blackened surface, at the looming white moon and ivory circle growing wide enough to swallow you whole, staring with breath suspended as you wait for the curtain to fall.
Just such a great piece. And so I'm not going to say much, but to really admire the way it opened with the idea that the skies are pinpricks through a blackened curtain and ended with staring with breath suspended as you wait for the curtain to fall. And there's so much symbolism happening with that. It's metaphorical, and at the same time, it's quite literal in the middle, right? And so I'm eager to just throw you into the prompt and say, one sentence micro holds the punch of urgency. So consider, you don't have to, but consider trying to do a breathless one sentence. Um, think of a meaningful moment, something you or your character experienced that was life changing. I mean, Kirsten, I really feel like, where you are in your novel, it might even be useful to you to what?
I don't think I can write something like this in my novel, though.
No, 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 but this could be amazing pre-writing, is what I'm saying. If you did a
Yeah,
breathless thing with one of your characters, I bet parts of it would end up showing up in there. I agree that you can't suddenly change the style of your writing 1,000% and have a paragraph in there that's just one sentence, unless you got inside somebody's head who's losing it. But I'm just saying, I could really picture this in the climaxing moments of novels being something. This kind of writing could help you get that urgency, that
yeah.
tension. Yeah. So something you or your character experienced that was life changing, or at least at that time it was, and pick something about the environment. outside the action or emotional context of that moment. And people use things like trees or the stamens in flowers or the patterns in ice or snowflakes or like just you can pick anything, right? Start with that object, observation, idea, and then write in one long continuous sentence. And again, just find out what happens. Like, don't feel like you're beholden to this, but if the structure helps you, great. It's the idea that as you're going in one sentence, your brain doesn't have to finish off a sentence. You'll just start to roll and it'll be amazing. Okay, everybody, I'm going to start the clock and you can get ready. You have a minute left. All right, time is up. I love that all of a sudden we do something that in, an hour you have four different things started. What do you guys think?
I like doing
That
this. This is fun.
I think I prefer it over the typical way that we do things, that because I do get more written, and it does help me, be more creative throughout the day when
Good,
I'm reading. So,
good.
that was definitely harder than I thought it would be to like keep the sentence going and to not stop because
Yeah,
my natural instinct as a writer is to like end and start a new
yeah,
sentence. So
yeah.
I was like, "Oh no, I can't stop this here even though this is a good place to stop it. How do I keep it going?"
I did too.
Semicolon.
Well, and it's hard because I got to the point where I was like that thought process completely ended and I was like, "Oh no." So I shifted points of view and I was like, "Ah, we'll see."
That's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah, and the other thing is you can always stop writing. Like you don't have to write the whole 6 minutes, I guess.
Yeah.
Um, Although we were doing something, at least when I first started it, I said just keep writing to find out what happens, because that's a nice pressure thing. When your brain thinks it's done, you're like, oh no, no. Let me show you how this works.
Well, I think it helps to push through that writer's block and be like, okay. And then you go to the third and fourth thought, and you're like, oh, there is still some absurdity left.
Yeah,
I'm gonna
absolutely.
do notebook soon. This one's almost full.
Lori, you did the 12-week Fiercely Flash class. I feel like this stuff is easy for you now. Is it true?
It's not easy, but that definitely helped.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I just feel like the other thing that's been happening, with your writing is that it feels like I mean, I don't know which one you're going to read now that we're about to read, but I feel like the writing on the dogs or whatever, you've got some pretty serious topics starting to come out that didn't used to happen. Is that disappointing to you? Sorry.
No, no, it's unexpected.
Yeah.
Yeah, because
And
you
the one
come
I'll
in.
read today is not serious at all, so it's the
Mhm.
old me.
Good.
But yeah, you're
I was
right.
gonna
It did
say
get
your writing style is more like Jim Carrey-ish. It's funny. And then that's
Yeah.
that's what we all look forward to is like what's Lori written? It's always gonna be funny. We're always gonna end up in a laugh. And then recently your writing has been serious. And I'm like, what happened to the old Lori? We need a laugh.
She's still in there, but I love that your repertoire has
Right.
broadened.
oh.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. Right. Right.
Well, so here we are with four possibilities for you to choose from. We'll read one of what you got, and then, we'll talk about each one after you read, though. So, like we normally do at this point. Does anybody want to kick us off? Okay, go ahead, Everett.
So this is from the second prompt, the disturbing one.
Yeah.
So my bones weren't straight, my legs weren't either. My legs, sorry, my legs too. But instead of following your oath to do no harm, you treated us like we were pigs at slaughter. And even though your job is to help children, we felt like we were in a remake of My Sister's Keeper. And it wasn't just you who looked at us like we were a body farm. It was all of you. you did no harm, then wait a minute. You did more harm than good to us, and you sit there with the angel of death smile on your face. You haven't killed anyone yet. I mean, that we know of yet. But that doesn't mean you're not capable of it. Who's to say you're not capable of it?
Ooh, especially that last question. What's your thoughts, everybody?
It was very deep. I mean, I know part of your story from 529, but like this was even deeper. I love when you said, we felt like you opened it up to bring your family in.
Hmm.
I don't think it was really part of my family. It was just every kid
Yeah,
Oh,
go through surgeries. It's no, we felt like we were a body farm,
yeah.
you know.
I see. So is this your point of view as a child that you think the doctor was negligent, or was he really? Like, do you now think that he was doing his best?
My family and I think that he just did the worst case of medical um
Malpractice? Oh, really?
malpractice as
Oh, shoot.
possible,
I'm
and
so sorry.
it
I thought he did his best and things just didn't turn out how he thought they would, but
that's why the
that's,
angel of death thing came in.
yeah, yeah,
He
yeah.
Yeah.
hasn't killed
That was my
anybody,
favorite
but
bit.
he, you know, I actually forgot another line here. It goes, "You do as much harm as you want because it's not happening to you."
Oh,
Oh,
that definitely
yeah.
needs to be in there.
Yeah. Oh, it's in there. I just
Yeah,
skipped over it for some
yeah,
reason.
yeah.
That's a really powerful line.
Hmm. And we all, I mean, Lori's not typing in the chat, but I would guarantee she wrote down also the angel of death smile. Like we all,
Yeah.
yeah,
I I couldn't remember the guy's name because there was an angel of death in like
yeah.
the I
Joseph
think it was
Mengele, is that right?
Mangala, I think, but
Oh,
Hmm.
I think so, yeah.
I couldn't
Yeah.
remember, so I was like, what did they call him? I was like, just put that.
Which is even better because I think all of us who know it's Mengele are like, oh my gosh, these kids are being experimented on pretty much. So that's horrible.
Yeah. And insurance is covering it.
Right. This is one that I really think that you should keep working on and consider sending out. This has a lot of chunks of really good stuff in it that I think that you're just going to need to do some polishing on and then think
Yeah.
about sending it out.
I mean, we'll see where it fits. I'm probably gonna have to send it out to like 16 different people to see if it fits anywhere. But um, I
I don't
could
know.
for
I
snooze.
submitted my one piece that finally got picked up by Booth to 33 different places before Booth took it. So you just never know.
I might keep it for snoozine too. I'm not sure, but
Yeah, especially if you keep pushing like the horror side of it, they'll
yeah,
definitely fit on the nightmare version of it. But the other thing to keep in mind is like,
It wouldn't
depending on
fit
if,
with the next theme that we're doing.
it would
yeah,
fit.
It would
would
not
not.
fit.
It would not fit. Okay.
And if you have been picked up, magazines will tend not to publish you. Then I'm not sure if you've published with them yet, but um, they won't publish you usually for at least a year if you've been published with
Right.
them. So
Yeah.
that was
One thing
amazing.
that, yeah. One
Oh
thing
no,
you
go
taught us
Lori.
in the no, one thing you taught us in the flash course that I hadn't heard before was just because you submit somewhere and submit again, like it doesn't mean you're not a good fit. Sometimes it can take like 20, 30 submissions to the same magazine. And remember that one lady, she was disappointed when people would stop submitting because she'd say,
Yeah,
well, no, I was just waiting for them to get to this certain
to
spot.
get better in
So
their writing. So yeah,
yeah. Whereas I always
Well,
it
and a
thought
was
lot of
too,
times,
if they turn you down, they're not going to like your writing. So you just stop, but it's not
yeah,
well,
it
true.
was
Yeah.
a
and a,
t-
and a lot of times it's not even that. It's, it
right.
doesn't fit the theme. Like
Right.
in this
Right.
last issue that we did, there were so many that we loved that didn't fit the theme, so we had to
Right.
say no.
The
Or
nightmare.
like we have rules where we don't take pieces that have already been published. We take
Hmm.
things that haven't been published before. And we had somebody submit two pieces that we originally loved and like we're going to accept. And then we found out that that piece had already been published. Both of those pieces had already been published multiple times. So we were like, ah, dang it.
Yeah. And the other piece that goes along with all that too is you also might have a wonderful piece, wonderful writing, and they might have gotten 50 wonderful pieces and wonderful writing, and maybe what you wrote didn't go with the other things they're picking, and so they turn you down for that. I mean,
Mhm.
Yeah.
you can have something that's perfectly eligible to be in something, and it doesn't make it for, and most of the time you'll never know, you know. Most of
This
the
is
time you'll either
also
get a form rejection or a, hey, you're doing great stuff. It just like I've gotten a couple recently that have been, we really like this, but it doesn't fit in our issue. So, and that happened, my early rejection on that piece that took 33 tries, like the second or third rejection I got was from this magazine I love. And they're like, oh, we held this till the end, but it just doesn't fit with what we're putting together this time. So, but it gave me hope.
I mean, it also could be my capstone. Like I could
Yeah.
easily turn this into my capstone.
Yeah, absolutely. Broaden it out and send it out. Yeah. Well, good work. Definitely.
An asterisk on that. Keep that. Thank you.
Yeah. All right. So who wants to follow that?
I
I
can
will
go since it's
follow.
exact. Oh, go ahead.
You guys decide between you. You were instantaneous.
Go ahead.
Okay. Um, I'm not reading that one. I am reading the absurd one.
Okay.
So,
Frozen birds, we'll call it.
frozen birds, but not frozen birds.
Right.
Um, the scale that she shoved into her pocket was no bigger than her palm. The rough edges cut her skin, but she clutched it in her hand like a lifeline. When she looked up, the world that greeted her was not the one she knew. The sky flashed purple, the leaves on the trees black and blue, and a pattern of scales led the way into a forest with tree trunks that were sickly yellow and pale green. She plucked them from the dirt. One, two, three, four, five, and her pockets grew heavy, slapping the skin of her thighs, bruises blooming like flowers.
Oh, I'm clapping. I'm just piping. Am I right? All
Yeah.
capital letters.
Yeah.
Dragons. I love dragons.
I mean,
Oh,
that's where I was originally going with it because Calliope does get um a scale from a dragon that she keeps with her. So that's where I was kind of going with it, but then it evolved into something different. So,
yeah. Because
I
it
was
seems like
thinking fish.
touching the scale gave her like magical powers, or like not so much magical powers as see the world like a dragon sees it, maybe.
um, I was more going for like the world started to bruise.
Oh,
Like the
love it.
scale was like poisonous or something
Mhm.
and started, I don't know. That's why it was like purple and black and blue and yellow and green and then
That's what
it
I picked up from it. The colors of the bruise. I thought, oh, this is a
yeah.
bruise. That was so
And then
cool.
it went with the bruises blooming like flowers on her thighs.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
really nice.
And I love
I
the
thought it
I,
was
one, two,
fish.
three, four, five. That
yes.
was.
Yeah.
I honestly thought it was about fish at first because you said scales, and then I quickly realized it was not fish. So
No.
Well, I was just picturing the scales like the little scales where you weigh food or something, and
That's
I'm
what I
kind of,
was
and
picturing.
it's
And I
like,
was like,
okay,
this
but
doesn't make sense at
bruises.
all. Like, I
Yeah.
didn't even like go to anything amphibious at all.
Yeah.
And like, I'm like,
But
okay,
then I thought it's
I had
absurd. So yeah, you could put scales in your pocket.
But
exactly.
also, because like so when I put scale in all the exclamation marks, Kirsten was in the Navy, I was in the Air Force, and I thought it was a weighing scale too. And I was like, oh, you are gonna go to town. And then the next line, I was like, even better, it's dragons. But
You
I
could put
thought you were
dragons
gonna,
on a scale. Then you encompass
oh
I mean,
everything.
you
yeah,
could.
and you have
you
scales
could.
on scales.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then it'd
Scales
be
on
really
scales.
absurd. But I loved that you tied it together almost like the last one did. Not that we had read it yet, but the idea that it was turning the world into a bruise and her skin was bruising like flowers. And I was listening because I wrote slapping the skin of her skies instead of thighs. But I loved it, like that feeling of weight in her pocket. There was such a sensory moment in that and so visual. I wonder if it started to smell. Like, was it rotting like a bruise or? you know,
I don't know.
just
It could
something to
be.
think about. Yeah.
I could have
Like,
mentioned something when she plucked them from the dirt.
right. What did they like? Did it smell like brimstone? Because, it's a dragon. What does dragon fire smell like anyway?
Licorice.
Brimstone.
Just kidding.
At
I
least
would say
in
it
Fourth
smells
Wing,
like a
it's brimstone.
fireplace, like a
Yeah.
the ashes of a fireplace.
Which is way nicer than like in Fourth Wing, as Kirsten said, it is brimstone. And as somebody who recently went through a bout of, sorry for too much information, and we are recording, but a bout of sulfur burps, I could never be a dragon. I, it was like the very depths of hell were in my stomach, and I was burping them up. It
That's the
was,
first line of your autobiography. I could never be a dragon.
it's true. It's true. That should be it. That should be it. Kirsten, this was amazing. Loved it.
Mhm.
I feel like the whole morning was worth it if you got that.
Yeah.
You don't have to feel like it. I feel like it. That was awesome. Thank you. All right. So it looks like we're going to Lori next because it was a tie between her and Kirsten and Gracie. We're going to ask you to round things out at the
Okay, I also did bird parts, but it is light and topical.
end.
I stare at the turkey. I want the turkey. It's Thanksgiving. I must eat turkey. But as usual, I filled up on appetizers. I shove a turkey leg in my pocket. I look at the mashed potatoes. I add a wad of butter and watch it melt. I unscrew the cap on the salt shaker and pour salt on top of the melted butter. Sodium, fat, carbohydrates, calories, they don't count on Thanksgiving. I grab a handful of mashed potatoes. The melted butter runs down my arm. I put the mashed potatoes in my other pocket. Dressing. No, Mom's dressing's always dry. I'll not waste a pocket on that. I heft my sluggish frame from my chair and head to the dessert table. I want to throw up. Instead, I throw a piece of pecan pie into another pocket. I pocket a scoop of ice cream. What am I thankful for? I'm thankful that I wore a jacket with so many pockets.
I thought you were just going to say, I'm thankful for pockets.
I mean, yes.
How is the absurdity of that?
I like that you needed all of the wet things.
Yes, right?
Like, screw the dry dressing. I don't want my pockets to be dry.
Screw how sticky pecan pie is. Like I have a
Mashed
thing with
potatoes with
sticky.
butter.
Yeah. I can't even eat an orange. Yeah. Because oh my God, right? Gracie and I are the
I
same
am a
person when it
texture
comes to this.
person, and like 100%, I understand that. Mm-mm. I'm just like,
Mm-mm.
oh, mm-mm.
And I
I'm
was
also
kind of hanging in there till the pecan pie. And then I was like, I could never, ever, ever.
I'm also a vegan, so hearing about like butter and
Oh.
all of that, I was like, this is gross, but it's also really funny, but I can't, put the
I mean,
milk.
I don't know if the last time we've had Thanksgiving dinner since we're Canadian living in the States. So we don't, the Canadian Thanksgiving's October. We're not there for that. We don't have anyone down here. Todd had Captain Crunch for Thanksgiving. I had leftover pasta
We
from a
didn't
week
have
ago.
Thanksgiving. We're having our Thanksgiving next week because everybody got sick. So
All
Ah,
right.
nice.
it's Christmas dinner. I call it Christmas dinner at that point, but
Mm. I had this funny thing happen where only my mom was going to be there. We came down and got her, and then I've driven her back, and we're doing something today, and then I'm going home. But I wanted the smallest turkey possible because there's only three of us, and I was like, "Oh, look at this 9.5 pound turkey! I'm going to get this." I go to stuff it whatever on the day, and I'm like, "Where are the legs?" Where I couldn't even tell what I was looking at for sure. And sure enough, I pulled back out the wrapper on it, and it's basically a turkey breast on the bone, but the legs are
Oh.
gone, the wings are gone. Yeah, I was,
My son would be
Because,
and
so disappointed.
yeah, and the dark meat's my favorite, so it was like, oh,
yeah,
well,
it's like
lesson
the guy
learned.
from that story ripped them off and put them in his pockets and took off and left you with the
Yep,
breast, the
that's what
dry
I was
part,
thinking. The guy from the story took my frozen turkey. Well,
to
the
pay
turkey
for his
wasn't actually
liquor.
frozen, but yeah,
He was
yeah,
treating
yeah,
bird heads.
exactly. Yeah, it was so funny. Anyway, that was awesome and like grossly fantastic. because
Absolutely.
yeah,
I
All I
like
can
Mike
think about
making
is
mud
like her
pies as a
walking
kid.
around with it and just being like,
right.
I'm
Which is the
hungry.
which
Just
is the
grabs
opposite of
something out of
Kirsten's,
his pocket and shoves it in his face.
and
It
it's the
kind of
opposite
gave
of
me like a
Kirsten's
scene of
heavy scales, that are slapping on her character's thighs. It's like, instead it's like smoosh, smoosh, smoosh.
gave
And I'm
me
actually somebody, I don't like my food to touch. So it's horrible.
it is.
Separate
It is.
pockets. That's fine. Separate pockets.
kind of reminded
He's
me
gonna
of that scene in um Matilda where like Bruce Bogtrotter's like holding this giant piece of chocolate cake and just shoving it in his mouth. Uh,
I haven't seen that movie.
you haven't seen Matilda?
Mm-mm. I have a dog named Matilda, but I haven't seen the movie.
That's a crime. You should see the movie.
I
Yeah.
haven't seen the movie, but I'm reading the book
Oh, that's
for
awesome.
to get ideas for my like kid story to see how Roald Dahl writes. So
Oh, nice. Yeah, he's awesome. Good. Lori, that was absurdly fantastic. Well done, you. Okay, Gracie, what you got?
I'm debating between the like fighting for a right versus the extremely long sentence. So I think I'll end it on a positive note and go for the super long sentence.
Okay.
The
That was going
fire
to be my
dance,
vote.
but
I'm
yeah,
sorry.
yeah, no. We got to have happy times right now.
Yes, we do.
The fire danced over the leaves as they crinkled and hissed beneath them. Hang on. Consumed by them wondering what they did to deserve this, but knowing their ashes would give life to other things than that would grow, that the trees would fall down, that the trees they fell from would eat and grow larger than the soil and the soil that they landed on would be richer for their cremation. So the fire kissed the leaves, and the leaves gave all they had beneath the touch of the wind, the wild. The night fell. The night fell. The air was crisp, but it was toasty as it danced with the leaves, plenty to kiss, plenty to touch, consumed and claimed for their own.
Hmm. Hold on. Claim. Yeah. That felt like it really flowed with one sentence.
Yeah, it
Thank
did really
you.
well.
It was really hard towards the end. It was like, oh man, I started with the fire's perspective and then it went to the leaves and then it went back to the fire. And so I was like, I don't know if this flows at all. So
I'm like, let's see. Ashes would give life. I kind of in my brain was in the leaves perspective the whole time. What about the rest of you?
I was
Yeah.
in both because I kind of looked at the leaves and the fire as like two different characters, and we got two different perspectives, which was really nice because you could also like I kind of felt for the leaves, but like I also like you need kindle to feed a fire, so something's got to die in order for something else to be fed. So that's how I looked at it. So.
What about you, Kirsten? You were saying no, so I'm trying to find out what you think.
Oh, no, I was just saying that I was in like the leaves the whole time. Like it
Yeah,
felt
like
like it was
me.
from the
Okay.
leaves the whole
Mhm.
time.
cool. I kind of
One of the
like that it
ways,
was seamless enough to where in my head I felt like it was like very contrast. So
hmm
it's nice to
Yeah.
to see that it blended better than
I'm
in my
kind of
head. I was like,
wondering,
oh no.
maybe you came into it omnisciently enough that the leap between perspectives was pretty seamless because really we were watching a fire and watching leaves, and maybe you had a more omniscient voice. When it says, and Kirsten, no, Everett put this in here too, um, the fire kissed the leaves, and then
I wrote
Kirsten
that
and I
down too.
both,
Yeah.
yeah. And then, oh, Kirsten did too. Yeah. So all
Yeah.
three of us did that, and four of us, and then plenty to kiss, plenty to touch. That felt more like maybe a voice observing the scene. So I think maybe you pulled off omniscient. And if you did, then you aren't head hopping because that voice can be inside anybody's head, you know.
Yeah.
I wonder if I was just working on something. Yeah. Okay, so let me just go like this. If y'all haven't seen this Ellen Brock article on the difference between omniscient and POV head hopping, um, this, I just think it's an article so worth reading because it was really hard to figure out how to establish omniscient POV, and she talks wonderfully about it. And then sometimes, especially in the like fundamentals class, people don't understand when they're hopping between heads, why that's something that's happening. And you weren't, Gracie. You pulled it off because you had an omniscient. Um, and so being conscious of why you were able to make the choice, I think is really important. And it was so beautiful. All the kissing and the life that was coming out of the absolute cremation of the leaves. I mean, it was really neat to take something that could be taken also as a death, as a, you know, an Auschwitz moment if you wanted to, but you took a perspective that wasn't like that. Anything else that we're thinking of with that? It was just beautifully done. Yeah. And if you don't end up getting the link from here, I share it all the time in class. So I think probably most of you, anybody who's had a class with me has probably seen this one. And if you haven't, I'm happy to share it. Just mail me or whatever, and I'll share it with you.
Perfect. I saved it on mine, so we're good.
Okay, good. Y'all, what a good session. And it's faster, but I think it's more. It's harder for me to do because I have to come up with 4 things and 4 prompts, but I think in the end it's pretty great. And yes, sometimes we will repeat stuff, usually not this close together, but I do that for 2 reasons. One, because it's hard for me to find all this stuff. And 2, I do really believe in that experience of being a different person today than you were last time you read it. So, yeah.
Well, and I think it's interesting if you take it, say you did the prompt before and you said it from this perspective or you had this kind of thing. What if you like changed it completely? And instead of
Mhm.
having dead birds, you went to, squirrels or you went to marbles or something else. Like just play with it. Because like
Right,
you said, we don't write the same ever. But if you
right,
actually change the object and switched it up, it might help
right,
broaden that perspective.
I
right.
remember I stuck with birds, but last time I put Larry Bird in my pocket.
Yeah, that's right. It was so great. That was so great. The other fun thing about that is you can treat it at like revision too. So we just talked about this, Lori, but I had a mentor when I was doing my MFA at Bennington who said you should write something and put it in a drawer, and then a week later write it and put that in a drawer. Never open back up the drawer and read what you had. And she wants you to do it 5 times. And whatever shows up the 5th time is what you really meant to write. I don't know what it is about 5 times with people. And I've only ever managed to do it 3 times. I don't have the patience to do 5. But repeating a prompt, even if you tried to write the same thing, it could be kind of like revision. Yeah.
I wonder if it's like having to peel back the layers. Have you guys ever seen the movie oh, what is it called? It's got
Shrek
Leonardo
where, oh, those
DiCaprio
are
in
like
it and he
onions.
goes into the layers of Dream World.
Oh yeah, yeah. It's
Um,
in Inception.
Inception.
yeah,
Yes.
Inception.
That's kind of what I feel like is like the top layer is the fun, happy layer, the acceptable layer, and then you get down into the nitty
Hmm.
gritty like depths of your soul.
Yeah. Yeah. Nice. Wow, I feel like that's a landing for us to finish on this morning. That was really great. So now that the depth of our souls have ended up on a page, I think I'm pretty sure it looks like, let me double check, but I think we're doing this again in 2 weeks. So that's December 14th. And then we won't do it again until probably, because I'm not even going to be back, probably January 18th. So we're going to go about a month without. But even, if you're not in class anymore, Gracie, as obviously everybody's still invited, and we keep
Yay.
doing it. We announce it on Discord and we announce it on Slack. So that's where you find if we're doing it. I, of course, didn't put it up until late last night, but that's just because my life and because we miss Sarah a lot. So,
Sure, you were like apologizing to her this morning. I'm sorry it's late.
yeah, yeah, that's
We all miss
just,
Sarah, I think. But
yep, absolutely. Well, thank you so much for coming. It was really fun to hang out with you. And
Enjoy
next
your
time
turkey breast.
it's at home. I got to go home to have any of it if Vern hasn't eaten it all.
Oh, I thought you were making it for your mother.
I did. So
Oh,
she's here in Wenatchee. Vern came down and hung some pictures for her and drove her up to our place. We had it on
oh, I
Thanksgiving
see. Okay.
Day, and then I drove her back, and then we're going to go to Wicked here in about an hour and a half, and then I'm going to go home again. It's like
Nice.
a 2 something hour drive. So
Enjoy the movie. I
thank
haven't seen it
you.
yet, but I've seen, behind the scenes footage and it's
Yeah,
amazing.
yeah, it looks really amazing.
And
I'm
the,
really
the
excited.
sets aren't even CGI. So all the flowers that
Right.
you'll see are like, oh my God.
Yeah, they planted thousands of tulips just to have the scene going into Monkshood Land or whatever. So yeah, I can't wait. Can't wait. All right, have a great weekend, everybody. See you in a couple weeks.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.